This is a production of KMmedia.pro. Welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So come on over into our world. I know you'll like it, because on today's show, excited to report that this is live radio, and sometimes when you do live radio, some things don't work out quite as you'd hope that they would. And Eric, our guest, has not shown up yet, has he?
Unfortunately, no, he has not.
Well, that becomes a problem. And but what I do want to mention is, while we got a moment in time, is to talk about what we are doing now that we've never done before. And it really is cool that we're able to do this in conjunction with KKNW. Would you like to tell everybody how sophisticated you guys are now?
Well, you're part of this too, so you're very sophisticated yourself, sir.
Well,
but yes, what we're doing is we're streaming the show live, Positive Talk Radio, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at its normal times, streaming it live to Facebook, YouTube, and to Twitter. And you can catch that on the KKNW accounts, or you can catch that on the Positive Talk Radio accounts. So lots of places to catch the show live, both video and audio, so you can watch Kevin talk to his guests, or you can just listen in, of course.
And hopefully that I will have a guest to talk to sometimes, but that's what happens when you do live radio. Is there is a glitch in the system someplace, and the guest that we had scheduled for today, his name is Philip Austin Brooks. He is a professional basketball player, and he played overseas for 8 years, and now he's become quite an entrepreneur in Texas with a string of daycare centers. And so we'll have to have him on again to talk directly about all of that and what he's doing. And I had a bunch of, it would have been an interesting interview, but I can't talk about that now. But we do have an encore presentation that we are going to run from last Monday. And Michael Schnabel, who is his family was had a terrible problem with cancer. His daughter had colon cancer, and she was pregnant at the same time. Wow. And they went through 5 years of intensive family oriented help to get everybody fixed. I'm happy to say that she is doing well, the son is doing well, and this show was very impactful, and it bears repeating. So are we kind of all set up for that?
I think we are, yes. And when, unfortunately, just because of the time constraints on the radio, we'll have to cut this off a little bit at the end, but we'll do our best to keep it streaming live on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. So,
well, just do acts of God, and otherwise you can't stop. Sometimes when you do something live, that's sometimes what happens. So
that's the way it goes.
Yeah, it's exactly right. So with that, I'll let you take it away. Michael Schnabel is our guest. He's written a book, and we're going to talk about all of that and his lovely daughter. And then he's going to be back on the show next Wednesday. So we're going to talk again. So, Eric, thank you. And thank you for being as light-footed as you always are.
My pleasure as always, sir. We'll talk to you on Wednesday.
Yes, sir. This is a production of KMmedia.pro. Welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple: to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So come on over into our world. I know you'll like it, because on today's show, present to you an incredible author who has an incredible story to tell. And I hope that you'll stay with us the entire time. It's going to be worth your time to listen to the story, and the book that he's written, which is called Daddy's Girl. But before we go into doing any of that, I got to talk to Eric. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Kevin. How are you today?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you very much. And would you like to? I know we've been doing this. What is this? The 23rd. And so I hope everybody has an opportunity to check us out in all of the forms that we do now, because it really is quite a lot of fun. I'm just amazed at the difference that technology has made in our lives, and because way back in 2003, I would come to the station and I'd do a show, and Eric would record it on, well, it used to be called a CD. Now, do you know what CD stands for? It's out not so hot, but it ends up being really good, and it's about a family, a daughter who gets sick, a family who stands behind her. Everybody works together tirelessly to make the outcome good, and then the outcome is good at the end of the day. And that's the name of the book, is Daddy's Girl. And Michael, I'm not sure, is the book out now?
It'll be out in March, so we're getting very close. It's available for pre-order now, but it'll be released in March.
And so far, the reviews that you're getting are really quite good, aren't they?
Yeah, it's really been exciting. We got a review from Kirkus Reviews, which is the kind of the gold standard in reviews, and it was very, very positive. It was excellent, and on Goodreads and some different places. So as people are starting to get exposed to it, we're hearing some really good things about it, and that's pretty exciting for me as an author, because to be honest with you, family and friends will lie to you and tell you that it's great, even if it isn't. And so I like the opportunity to have some professionals look at it and see that it's a book worth reading.
I get the same thing as a podcaster. I got family and friends that say, "Oh yeah, you're doing a great job," but you can never trust those people to be 100% critical and honest. So I've surrounded myself with people who are that way, so that they can make me better at what I do.
Yeah, I understand.
So, Daddy's Girl. Let's talk about the book a little bit, and it's a true story.
Yes, it is. We were an average family, just kind of going along with our lives, and then we had some things that came in and changed the direction of all that. And so I guess the backstory is really that my daughter was pregnant with her only child, and started having some problems in the second trimester. And we couldn't do the tests that we wanted to do because of they were afraid they were going to induce labor and it may affect the baby. So she had the child, and then 2 weeks later they were able to do some more testing, and they found out that she was suffering from stage 4 colon cancer. It was a very unusual form of it, something seen in textbooks and very advanced. And she was given about a 8% chance of surviving for 5 years. And so we went from the highest high that you can have as a grandparent of having your first grandchild to a lot of drama and a lot of fear based on us facing the possibility that we might lose our daughter.
That has to be, I can't imagine anything so devastating as a father to have. And she was a young person at this time, wasn't she?
Yeah, Stephanie was 27 when she had her child, and so we were seeing doctors, and we even asked them at one point, before the child was born, do you think this could be cancer? And they just smiled and said, no, 27-year-olds don't get colon cancer, but we found out different.
And the cancer was really different and unique, and it was also very fast, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fast growing, but it was very aggressive. It had spread because it was stage 4. It had gone. It was actually seen in the liver and other locations besides the colon. But the doctor that explained it to us and broke the news to us about the cancer said that it was something unusual and seen in textbooks. It's called. Her polyps actually looked like shag carpeting. They were so thick, and there were so many of them throughout her colon. Her colon really liked to grow polyps.
Oh, that's and by the way, Stephanie's going to be on the show a week from Wednesday, and we're going to do a podcast with her, Michael, and maybe even the star of the show will be the 16-year-old grandson.
Yeah. And as I talk about this story, I want to make it clear to people that this is not a gloomy story. It was very emotional and was very, very difficult starting out. But the book itself, the story of the book, is very positive. And in fact, when she survived, our oncologist at the Mayo Clinic said, "You really need to share the story, because there are he says, the biggest thing that my patients need is hope." And because she was able to survive this, because she went from just a normal 27-year-old mom to a warrior and was able to overcome this, he said this story needs to be shared. And so we did that. And as I was writing it, I thought, wow, there's a lot of oh my God moments in it. And so I balanced it out with some humor and some stories of Stephanie's early life and different things that we had experienced together. And based on the reviews, they feel that it was a good balance. So it's not a gloomy book. It's a story really of a family coming together and saving one of their own.
Well, it's interesting, Michael, that we're talking about stage 4 cancer. And my brother had a diagnosis for the same thing, which was, in his case, it was lung cancer. And it had metastasized into his brain. And so he had brain surgery, and it was also, it was everywhere. And he ultimately passed from it. And I have another friend that, and his name, well, I'm not going to give his name today, but he was diagnosed in December as having stage 4 cancer, and he died day before yesterday. And his first name is Mark. If you're listening and you drove a bus with us in Seattle, you'll recognize that name. But it happens so many ways, and it can be so quick, and it can be so devastating. But your situation was different in that you guys, rather than saying ho hum and oh dear and oh my, you got together and said, all right, we're going to beat this thing, didn't you?
We did. When we got the diagnosis, it was devastating. And the physician came in and explained what he could for us and then left us alone. And when I say we, I'm talking about my wife, myself, as well as my daughter and her husband, Mark. And then the baby was there too. And they had heard the news a little earlier than I did, because I was up in the hospital room with the child, with the newborn baby, and taking care of him while they were going through the diagnosis and the information. So when they came back to the room, I hadn't gone into shock yet. And so I'd learned a long time ago in my businesses that as you take a look at a problem, you have to move rather quickly from reacting to it and start dealing with it. And so that's what we did. We made a pact together, the 5 of us, that we were going to stand next to Stephanie, and we were going to beat this thing. We were going to find some way to do that. And she would never be alone. We'd go to all of her appointments. We slept with her in the hospital. We were with her in all the operations. We just did everything that we could to go ahead and try to build her strength. And slowly over time, she went from just a normal young woman to becoming a warrior and really owning her disease and fighting for something that was bigger than herself, because her biggest fear was not of death itself. It was really the fact that her child was going to be without a mother and grow up without ever knowing her and only knowing her through pictures. And so that really became her reason to survive and her reason to fight. And I think that in life, we all want to fight. We all want to survive. We want to excel. But when you're fighting for something beyond yourself, I think that makes a big difference. And that's what she was doing. She was fighting for this child, probably more than she was fighting for herself, but she had to live to go ahead and give the child to mom.
I just want to highlight here that the presence of family and forming a team and everybody working together in unison, that really makes it different for people that are going through this, I think.
Definitely does. We've all been fearful of something. We've all stood up and thought, what am I going to do with this, whatever it is? And she was staring death in her face. And so just the fact that someone comes up and puts their arm around you and stands next to him and said, you're not going to ever be alone. we're going to be with you. We're going to find you the best doctors, the best research centers. We're going to do everything that we can to save your life, but you will never be alone. This is not your fight. This is our fight. And so we formed that team, and then we started putting together plans on what we could do to go ahead and step forward. In the beginning, it was pretty easy. We just we had to make some quick decisions, which were very difficult. She actually had her first surgery probably 12 hours after we found out the diagnosis, because they wanted to move quickly because it was so aggressive. And we had tough decisions to make. And because of the scenario, because of the fear, we didn't know what decisions were going to save her life or maybe not. So we had to really take a look at the decisions that we were making and make sure that we were doing the best that we possibly could. And that was easier with a group.
Yeah, yeah. I can only imagine what is it like being the patriarch of the family. You're grandpa, and you just had a brand new grandson, and it must have been like a gut punch for you when they told you about the diagnosis.
Yeah, it was. We were all in shock. The most difficult thing happened that first night, and that's when my daughter just looked at me in the eye and said, "Dad, am I going to die?" And so we have a very, very close relationship. And one of the reasons why our relationship is so strong is because we've always been honest with each other. And so I told her the truth with tears coming down my face. I said, "I really don't know." And I struggled with that decision for a long time as to that comment, because maybe I should have said, "Oh yeah, we're going to beat this and don't worry about it," and all that. But she deserved the truth. And later on, we would talk about that. And she said that I did the right thing. But that was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to deal with.
And I would submit that telling somebody the truth when they're in a situation like that is far better than stringing them along and not. And my brother ran into this, which was nobody wanted to tell him. Nobody would say you have a terminal disease and you're going to be. You may not survive 6 months. Nobody would tell him that. The doctors didn't want to tell him that, and he didn't ask. I suppose he could have asked, but it's important that we understand the gravity of the situation, because then we can take steps to deal with it and to do it quickly. And that's what you guys did, and it came out in today. I think I'm happy to report Stephanie is cancer free. Is that not true?
That is correct. Yeah. After 5 years, five surgeries, 2 bouts of chemo, and a lot of other things that she dealt with, she was told by the Mayo Clinic that she was cured. And the first time we went to the Mayo, we sat down with a great oncologist, and he said, "I will never be able to tell you that you're cured, and because the odds are just that strong." And he said, "But we'll always be here for you." And then 4 years later, we were in there, and he said, "We're going to continue to follow you, but I consider you cured." And we were so shocked, we walked out of the room and said, "Did you hear what he said? Did you hear the same thing?" Because it was like he said that, and then he usually spent an hour and a half with us, but that was the end of the appointment, and he walked out, and we were all like, "No, did he really say that?" And it was just crazy. It was crazy, awful exciting.
So was there a bit of the bubbly and a champagne and a big dinner after that?
We did go out and celebrate a little bit. Yeah, we didn't do champagne. The ladies like wine more than champagne, so that's what we had, a little bit of that. But it was just, you take this. This is a day by day thing. In the beginning, both my wife and I have worked in the medical world all of our lives. My wife is an RN, and myself in working for a pharmaceutical company. So we were around doctors and hospitals all the time. But when this hit, we really didn't know what to do. And, it was such a shock to us and such. And so we started trying to figure out what to do. And that first night, I was the one who suggested we form the team. But that was my leadership role that time. Everybody took a leadership role in it. My wife, with her, is just a fantastic nurse. She graduated top of her class in college, went into ICU right out of college, which is very unusual because she was that good. And she's always been so good about her knowledge. on disease and whatever. But when this hits you in the face and it hits your own family, it's all different all of a sudden. And we kind of were searching for books to, maybe give us some guidance. These are the steps that you need to do. And we just kind of fell back on our own experiences in life. I knew that we needed to develop a plan because we had to figure out what physicians we're going to use, what research centers, different people were giving us different advice and that type of thing. So we started to put together a plan, and everybody had a role in it. My son-in-law was an architect, and he was doing everything he could to take care of the child and the newborn. My wife and I were on the phone hours at a time, sometimes all day long, trying to figure out how we could deal with transportation, hotels, hospitals, appointments to try and get together a dream team. And it took us a few months, but we got that dream team. And we really were very, very fortunate with the people that helped us in life.
Because you knew so much, and your wife knew so much about medicine and hospitals and the things that go on there, did that help you or hurt you, do you think?
I think it helped us because we were comfortable in working with doctors and nurses and institutions. We understood the language, we understood the people, we understood what they were dealing with in life. So we kind of had an idea, especially my wife, how to deal with the insurance companies, things like that. So there were a lot of things that helped us, but I tapped into our pharmaceutical company. We had an oncology division with Bristol Myers Squibb. And I talked to people there, and they helped guide us to particular institutions, particular physicians, that they had suggestions about. And we didn't always find a good match. And that's something that I would tell anybody that's in a life and death situation that's really dealing with a medical illness. You've got to find people that you believe are going to help you and that believe in you. And when we had this 27-year-old daughter with stage 4 colon cancer, the first oncologist we talked to had an algorithm that he used for the same thing for everybody, no matter what their age was. So if they were 65, 85, whatever. And so he wasn't treating her the way she needed to be. So it wasn't a good fit. He wasn't a bad person. It just wasn't a good fit. So we found a younger female that connected with my daughter and understood and said we can get more aggressive with her because of her age. She's young, she's strong. We're going to go ahead and take her to the edge of death with the chemo, and then we're going to bring her back. And that's what they did.
That must be, I can't imagine how difficult chemo is, especially when you are doing it to that degree. Your daughter, I really am looking forward to meeting her next Wednesday because she's tough.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, and she would tell you she isn't. She would tell you that all she did was take it one day at a time, that she went ahead and focused on the things that she could try to affect. She tried to focus on the things that were in her control. And we had a lot of faith. We really relied on our faith an awful lot. In fact, I was surprised at several things. I was surprised that, first of all, none of us got angry with God. Stephanie never said, why is this? Why are you doing this to me? Why is this happening to me and not somebody else or anything like that? We all believe in God. And we just feel that we have challenges to grow our souls and to learn from them. And that was the thing that we asked more than anything is, what are we supposed to learn from this? How are we supposed to, kind of move forward and such? But our faith was much stronger than I ever thought it could be. But it was also boosted as we went through this ordeal, because when things were the very worst, it seemed like we got the very best solution. This first surgeon that we had, we made a decision after talking to him for 2 hours that he was going to go in and remove her colon, and that he was going to, well, actually, he said there were 4 different possibilities. And the last one hit us awfully hard because he said, it may be that this is so advanced that we can't do anything. I'll just sew her back up. And so that was really difficult to hear. But we found this physician, and the next day he was able to do the surgery, and he removed the vast majority of the cancer and gave us hope. And that is such a critical thing when you're fighting, is to have hope. And between our faith, boosting our hope, and the good news that we would get We got bad news again and again, but we got good news afterwards, and we just kind of kept moving forward until, like the doctor said, you're cured.
I believe that in a lot of cases, having something that you're really motivated to fight for, which would be that she was a 27-year-old that just had a baby and she wanted to grow up with that child. He just turned 16. He's now driving. She gets to see that.
Yeah,
And that is a huge motivating factor that I think at times can make a change. Do you?
definitely. Yeah, I think that you take a look at people ask, how did this change you? Did it change you? And it did. And one of the things we do is we don't take life for granted like we used to. And it's so easy with everybody. We get into our daily routines, we do our jobs, we take care of, we have fun on our weekends, we do whatever. But we really don't think about how fast life goes. And I'm 70 now, and so I'm understanding it a little bit more clearly now, but we don't take life for granted. And my daughter and my grandson are best friends. They are so close. He always teases her that he saved her life, and that's probably true because the pregnancy hormones probably accelerated the cancer and most likely gave us the opportunity to fight it because we started seeing such strong symptoms that we knew something was going on and we went after it. So he's always, anytime he's in trouble, he keeps saying, he keeps reminding her that he saved her life.
As a smart 16-year-old, if there ever was one.
Yeah,
That's
he's a good kid.
Really. By the way, we're talking with Michael Schnabel. He has written the book Daddy's Girl. It comes out next month, and I highly recommend that you pre-order it now, and you can get it. The reviews are nothing short of sensational, and it is starts out as positive, and then there's some stuff that goes on that's negative, but then the outcome is nothing short of miraculous. Do the doctors talk in terms of the miraculous nature of her recovery?
Yeah, we had several oncologists that we were dealing with, one in Mayo and also one at the University of Kansas here in Kansas City. And the oncologist said that she was a miracle. We went back actually and saw our oncologist a few years ago from in Kansas City. And just to go ahead and talk to her and just to see her and relive some of the memories and that type of thing. And she just came right blank out and said, "You were a miracle." I mean, it was such a strong thing that the University of Kansas, when they put out their their yearly financial report, they had a 2-page article on her, and it was titled "Overcoming All Odds to Live." And so it was something that was noticed by the community. It was noticed by the institution. And Stephanie got very active. Throughout this ordeal, it lasted about 5 years. And throughout this ordeal, we kept running into other people that were in similar situations. And so she would reach out to them. She was talking to people in Chicago and all over the country that were dealing with stage 4 cancer. And some of them were just like her. They were young mothers, they were, or they had family and that type of thing. And she tried to give back and let them know some of the things that we had learned and that type of thing. But she also lost some of those friends, and that was devastating because she knew of their children. She knew their kids' names. She knew the people, and they didn't have the same outcome that she did, and that was difficult.
Does she feel guilt in any way for that she survived and they didn't?
No, I don't believe so. We've never really talked about that specifically, but she certainly never brought that up. She feels incredibly lucky, and yet her strong belief in God, she really owes it all to God. In fact, when I was writing this book, the reason I started writing the book really was because we thought that this grandchild was never going to see her, and there was a good possibility he'd never know her. And when my daughter said she just couldn't handle that, I had to look as a father and say, well, what can I do to help? And so the next day I started journaling. everything that we were doing, the things that were going through our minds, the things that we were dealing with. So this child would know how strong Stephanie was. So he would know how brave his mother was and how hard she fought to go ahead and to win her battle. And the good news is she did. And so we had this book, and at that 5-year point, Stephanie and I got together, and she helped me organize all my notes and that type of thing. And then I wrote a journal to Caden, and that was to him. And afterwards, a couple of people had written or read it and said, you really need to share this. The oncologist in Mayo said, I really need to share the story. And that's when I rewrote it for the public. And then my agent made me rewrite it several more times to go ahead and take a new author and put him through his paces. And we ended up with something that I'm very proud of.
And we're going to talk about that when we come back, because this is actually the second book. The first book is the journal, and we're going to talk about that because I think what you did for your grandson is just really remarkable. And I met you the other day, and I just love your story. I love the concept of family. I think we have a tendency to either our families are broken or they're not together, but you guys rallied around, and you had faith, and you had the desire to make it happen, and by gosh, it happened.
Yeah.
And so you should be very, very proud of the family that you have, the family man that you are, and that you were able to put it together. And I really appreciate it. By the way, you're 70. Is time going faster for you? It is for me.
It is. I discovered a long time ago that I thought we lost about a week each year. And I figured that out at about 30. And it seems like I lose about a week every year. Time does move fast, but I keep busy. I'm happy with life. So I am very, very blessed.
And you are. And Michael Schnabel is our guest, and we're going to be right back. We need to take a short break. We'll be right back after these couple of messages. Please hang with us. Hey there. I'm excited that you're listening right now, and if you like what we're doing here, you're going to love positivetalkradio.net. On positivetalkradio.net, each show, which is recorded live, is packed with positive information, with real people discussing real issues and positive solutions that can work for everyone. I hope that you'll join us on positivetalkradio.net and listen to all 340 plus shows. I think it's worth your time. But then, that's just me. That's positivetalkradio.net, your home for great progressive positive podcasts.
When you want to say more than words communicate, you can with flowers. Your custom boutique floral studio in Bothell, Washington is anaturaldesign.com, connecting you to nature through the language of flowers. Where your people are is where our flowers are beautiful. Your success is our goal. anaturaldesign.com at your fingertips today.
Hey, my friend. I'd really like to thank you for listening to the show today. As you may know, I started Positive Talk Radio way back in 2003. We were one of the first shows on KKNW. For 11 months, I was fortunate to be part of many lives, making a positive difference with great interviews and discussions, creating new thoughts and ideas. Sadly, for financial reasons, I had to terminate the show. Well, it took 18 years, but we're back better than ever. And not only on KKNW Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but also podcasting with several inspiring channels with the same driving passion as the original. Please visit kmmedia.pro for complete information about all of these shows. In addition, if you feel called to keep positive programming on the air, you can join us by sponsoring the show and aligning yourself with our mission, which is nothing short of saving the planet and each other. Again, that's kmmedia.pro. I'll see you there. And welcome back to Positive Talk Radio. We've got a great guest for you today. His name is Michael Schnabel. He's written the book Daddy's Girl, and but there was another book, and that book was written prior to this book, and it was written for an audience of one. And has he had the opportunity to read the book that you put together?
He has. He has not read the original journal yet, but he does. He has read Daddy's Girl. He was afraid to read that for an awful long time. He was aware of the situation. He knew that his mom was close to death and that she had struggled. And he was a little bit afraid of all that, because he started hearing about it at a very young age. We kept talking. It took me 10 years to go ahead and go from the concept of writing the book to go ahead and get it published. And so he's heard about it for a while. He went ahead and finally decided that it was time to listen to it or to read the book. And so he and his mom got together and she started reading it to him chapter by chapter. And that was a great way to do it because they are so close, and it was an opportunity for them to really not only read through it, but go through the emotion and allow him to ask questions. And she provided more of the backstory and that type of thing on things that were not in the book. And it became really a bonding experience for the two of them. And when he got to the end of it, he was really, really happy to know the story, and was very surprised at a lot of it. His favorite parts were him. Where I talk about the baby and how much we loved him and how much entertainment, because the baby, I talk about this team. There was not one member of the team that was more important than the others. Everybody took their time and their part in leadership. My wife did an incredible job with the medical end of it. My daughter just fought and fought. Mark and I took over leadership roles based on what our expertise was. There were so many times that we'd get into these large research centers and I'd get half lost, and Mark was always our compass, would get us where we needed to be and that type of thing. And so it's funny when you talk to Caden about the story. When I asked him what he liked, and he said the stories about him, but then he also talked about the life lessons. For me, as a new grandfather, I really wanted to pass on some life lessons, and this story gave us an opportunity to talk about those types of things. The importance of forgiving people, the importance of understanding people and their situations that they're in, just different things that would kind of come up in different situations. And I'd go ahead and talk to Caden about it and use it as a life lesson. He liked those. And he also liked the fact that the stories about never giving up, and not focusing in on being a victim, really moving forward and taking steps to go ahead and to improve your situation and do what you can. So he was really pleased about that, and it was good.
A lot of people there is a grief component to when you get a diagnosis like that. The first thing that a lot of people will go immediately into grief, but because the surgery happened so quickly after the diagnosis, you as a family unit didn't have time to do any of that. You just bypassed the grief thing. Did it ever come back to rear its ugly head?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, multiple times. As we went through the story, the removal of the colon really gave us a boost. But then they started talking about chemotherapy. We're sitting there thinking, well, wait a second, didn't they get it all? And they said, no. The cancer is microscopic, and it can be anywhere, and we need to go ahead and follow up on chemotherapy, which Stephanie, we were all fearful of. And then once we got into the right location, the right clinic to go ahead and to do the right oncologist, really, as well as the right cancer center to go ahead and deliver it, all of a sudden Stephanie looked at, instead of being afraid of the chemotherapy, looking at it, that's her tool, that's her weapon to go ahead and fight back. And so we tried to find good in as much as we could, because there was so much negative. So everybody wants to help, but there's so little that most people can do. Everybody was praying, and that was huge. That was a huge deal to us, to the prayers that we received. And we had friends that were saying that their 5-year-old was adding her to their prayer list at night and things like that. And so as our faith got tested, we really ended up getting such amazing solutions. There were 2 different times when she was going through chemo that we had dangerous side effects that all of a sudden popped up. And in each case, we rushed her to the emergency room. And both cases, she was told that if we had gotten there a few hours later, she would have died. There wouldn't have been anything that they could do. One was with sepsis, one was with a blood clot. And both these things happened within 2 weeks. And so these things really took us down and shook us. And until we kind of changed our perspective. And instead of why is this happening and why God, we almost lost her, maybe there was a guiding force that got us to that emergency room in time to go ahead and save her life. And so we started learning that as far as our perspective and our attitude towards this. And we broke down, we cried, we had, we didn't know what to do so many times, or, there were so many times that we were down. But it seemed like if one of the members of the team was down, somebody else was taking over a leadership role and trying to help us. And I can't understate the amount of importance it was for our family to be together and all fighting this together. Because we just, we'd always be smiling, we'd always be hugging each other, we'd always be doing those things. And just like Stephanie was fighting for her life, when we got the bad news and we got additional surgeries and additional chemo, we dealt with it together. And that was huge. To do this really difficult, I would just feel terrible for anyone that had to deal with something like this alone.
It is unbelievable to do that by yourself. Especially you and your wife did a great job of finding the right people and researching what you needed to research to get it all done. And it really is quite remarkable. And you should be really proud of the outcome and who you guys are as a family. You're going to be close together for your entire existence.
Yeah. Well, actually, my daughter, after she was cured, she said, Mom and Dad, you're never going to be put in a nursing home. You're never going to have to worry about that. I'm going to take care of you when you're old age. And her husband, who has a great sense of humor, says, yeah, we've got an empty basement. We can put you down there and throw some food down there occasionally and watch over you. So, yeah, it's good to be loved.
And it's a great story. And by the way, the name of the book is Daddy's Girl. It comes out, and he's got a huge smile whenever I say Daddy's Girl. So that's really cool. And it comes out in March, and you can pre-order it now. Can they go to your website and pre-order it?
Yeah, they go to my website. That's authormichaelschnabel.com. And they can order it there. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, pretty much. Most bookstores will be able to go ahead, and I think any bookstore will be able to pre-order it at this time.
Which is really cool, and I venture to guess that with the number of reviews you've gotten that are really, really positive, that sales are going to be really good, because this is a feel-good story at the end of the day.
It is, yeah. It is not a gloomy story. What happened to us was very devastating and difficult, but as I said, my literary agent suggested that I may want to sprinkle in some positive stuff in between the oh my God moments. And so I started taking a look at our history, and I was able to uncover a number of things that happened to my daughter or to us as a family that really bring out some highlights of some funny things that happened to us and such, like my daughter's first driving lesson. Which didn't go very well. She was in the ditch within probably 20 seconds of starting the car. And so we have fun. We had fun. I really enjoyed writing the book. I would say that I cried most days. It was very difficult to write it, but I really enjoyed it because I put my heart and soul of it. And I thought that it was something that truly could help others. And so I originally wrote it for Caden. But then after that, the whole idea of really coming out with Daddy's Girl was to provide some hope to other people. Because if you're going through an illness like this, look at this crazy world we're in right now. Any family you talk to, they're struggling. They're struggling with something in their lives. And to have a story like this that's positive, I think, is a good thing.
It is so hard these days to manage to stay positive for a great deal of the time, because just turning on the news can be a bit of a negative thing, and what's happening in our world. So it's important, and that's why it's important that you come on Positive Talk Radio, because it's a really positive story the outcome is unbelievably great, and I just applaud you as a whole family. Looking back on it now, because it's Caden is 16. They cleared it up when he was like 6 or 7, and looking back on it, does it even appear real to you at this point, or is it or was the difficulty of it so imprinting that you remember it vividly the entire time?
I think you hit the nail on the head. It did imprint on my mind. That's one of the reasons it made it so easy to write. When I was writing about a scenario, I was there. I could relive it. I could see it, and that brought a lot of tears and difficulty. But that was one fun thing about when I was writing it for Caden. Stephanie and I were kind of doing that together. I did the writing, and she did a lot of the organization and such. But she was my sounding board. And she and I had secrets from each other. There were things that happened that we didn't talk about, that she felt or that I did behind the scenes, and didn't really want to share with her. That we then dealt with a lot of baggage. We dealt with a lot of stuff that we'd still been carrying around, and so it was really very healing for us to write the book to Caden. But I just hope that it helps people. I think people are going to be entertained by it, to be honest with you. I think they're going to see some humor in it and have some fun with it. But they're also going to see, people ask us how we did it. They ask us all the time because we're a normal family. We're no superheroes or anything. We just are trying to do our best. And we did it by putting together a plan and working our plan and doing everything that we could. And we had 5 people that were working on it. And that child was so often the most important part of Stephanie's team, because as a family, we were working hard and such, but we were affected by it all. But this baby was happy. This baby was excited. He had 4 adults cooing over him and taking care of him. And so this child was an oasis for us to escape. It's not as easy raising a child when you're in your 50s as it is in your 20s. And although my wife and I didn't raise him, we helped raise him, and we were taking a lot of the night feedings and things like that. And I tell you what, it was just a pleasure. This kid, don't tell him when he's on next week, but he was just perfect. He just was a great, great kid, always full of smiles and coos and such. And so he really gave us a great escape.
Sir, I would submit to you that most people that are extraordinary don't believe that what they did was extraordinary. And I have to tell you that what you guys did as a family, you as the patriarch that was leading the charge and getting everybody together, it's extraordinary. And you guys just extraordinary.
Very kind of you. But it certainly wasn't just me. We all had our part. Every member of the team was important and did their due diligence. My wife, when we got Steffi out of the hospital from that first surgery, we had the kids come and stay with us at our home. We had plenty of room. It was where she grew up as a child, and it was a healing place. And we've got a little bit of land. We have a tree farm that we work, and so we had the opportunity to take care of so much because we were together every single day, and we could talk through the things. And if someone was down, we could help them. We could go ahead and pick them up. But my wife was just incredible because she took care of the whole house. She did all the cooking, all the laundry, everything. And she was the one that was talking to the insurance companies and setting up appointments and things like that. We all had our work. Her husband, Mark, was never away from her. He slept every hospital that she was in, every hospital bed. He slept in a chair, and he's 6'4". It's not.
Oh goodness!
It's at 6'5", I think. Excuse me. Oh, I'm going to hear about that. But he's 6'5", and he's a big man. He's a big bear, and he was sleeping in these hospital chairs, but right next to her, holding her hand all the time. Incredible husband, and so it's very kind of you to say the kudos, but the hero here is Stephanie. She's the one that became a warrior. She's the one who oftentimes was the strongest one of the team. we would run across things and get frustrated and have to deal with things. And she always said the same thing: I'm not worried about it. I've got a great team working on it for me, so I'm not even going to worry about it. All I'm going to do is keep trying to get better and trying to heal. But she was incredibly brave, and it helped us a lot.
It made it easier for you.
Yeah,
And
definitely. And that isn't always the case. We ran into other families in which the patient wasn't willing to do the chemo. The patient didn't want the surgery. The patient fought them every time. And some of those people, some of those situations didn't turn out very positive. And so if you're fighting for your life, you have to do everything that you can, because you may not win your battle, but if you try and do everything you possibly can, then you did your best job you can.
and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah.
But if you do the best you can, and you've got a great team around you, but I submit to you, since you were the father of the group, that your daughter Stephanie, and I'm going to ask her about this on Wednesday when she comes on, that I know that she was incredibly brave, incredibly strong, and she's tough as nails. But there were times when she was looking to you because you were the leader of the family.
Well, yeah, there were certainly times that was true, but I would share that I'm the mouthpiece of the group, but everybody did their part, I'll tell you. And we had so many other people that helped us. We had friends, we had people we didn't even know. They came out of the woodwork and wanted to help. Her neighbors got together and put together a fundraiser to help with the medical bills. We just had so many people that were reaching out and sharing love and prayers. And there were masses that were going on throughout the world, over in Europe and in Asia, of different people that knew people there and was asking them to say masses for her and such. It was just incredible, the outpouring of love that we had. We were very, very lucky.
I think that there needs to be a movie.
I'm all for that.
Yeah, and I think that would be a really, really cool story to get it out there, and not only the microcosm of the family, but how you impacted the world in many ways. Because, like you were saying, there were services going on all over the place. There were people praying for you, so it wasn't just tied to your little family. You became a symbol for a much bigger thing.
Yeah, there were a lot of people. This started out in 2006, so the internet wasn't brand new, but we had a young man, one of the gentlemen that I worked with said he had a son who was, I think, 15 at the time, that said he could set up a website for us. We didn't even know that was possible. And so he set up a website for Steph, and we used to go ahead and put out updates, because communication got to be a real problem. So many people knew about this situation and always wanted updates and things like that, and things were changing fast. And it was exhausting. We wanted to share the information, but you tell the story over and over and over again. So we needed some way to communicate. And so this young man set up a website for us, and we could go ahead and put out updates. And one of the things that really bothered Stephanie is with chemo, it took away so much of her energy. She wanted to thank everyone, and the cards that she got, the gifts that she got, the people that were just praying for her. She never felt like she could thank them enough. And so that gave her a way to go ahead and put messages out and updates on. And we had a lot of people watching that. And a lot of people told us that they drew strength from Stephanie and from her story. So that's good.
And I tell you, when a lot of people will say, why do bad things happen to good people? But at the same time, your story is going to enlighten and help a lot of people going forward. And that's a legacy for you and for Steph and for the grandson. That's going to be really cool going forward.
Yeah. It's funny because we bought into all the cliches that you hear, taking one step at a time, taking one day at a time. There were times that we had to take an hour at a time. Let's just get through this hour. Let's just get through this, whatever it is. And focusing on controlling what you can control. Steffi was never a victim. We didn't need any more drama in our life. A lot of that was being presented to us, and we just had to deal with it. But we didn't need to worry about the things that we couldn't control. We had to focus on the things that we could. And, it was incredibly important to set up a plan. And it sounds silly, but again, I drew on my business experience that we started focusing in on who can do what. My wife's expertise, my expertise. I tapped into my pharmaceutical company. She started making arrangements and we have a lot of friends that are physicians and in the medical world, and talking to different people about how to get through this and what we needed to be doing. And so we worked our plan, and just having a plan is a positive step. You just feel better, like, hey, if we can accomplish all these things, we're going to be okay. And it kept us busy, and it kept us moving forward and such. And so I can't say enough about having a plan, having faith. We were so fortunate to have the faith that we did. And I never realized how strong our faith was until it was tested.
I think that the next little pamphlet you should write is, let's see, what can we call it? I know. I've just been told I have cancer. What's next? And then you help them. First thing is a plan. Get together with your family. Don't hide it. Don't hide it from everybody, because it's important that everybody knows and all of that. So that's really is a cool thing. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. He just grabbed a folder. What's the folder say?
It says living through a crisis.
See?
And we're working on that, trying to finish it up. And once that's done, it'll be available on my website. It's free of charge. It'll be a PDF. And I think there's 17 or 18 pages to it. And it talks about progression and the things that you really need to focus in on, having a plan, finding the right doctors, talks about faith. It talks about dealing with stress and things like that. So I'm all about giving back.
I love it. And Michael Schnabel has been our guest. Go to his website, which is authormichaelschnabel.com. Buy the book. It's worth it. Got to go now, but thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Kevin. You make it such a pleasure to talk.
Oh, good. And by the way, take care of each other, and because each other's all we've got. I can't. You've got me so flibbercated, I can't even do that. So.
God bless.
Thanks, guys.